What's up, Cougs? Thanks for tuning in to the Medical Minute with ER Dr. Jess. We are here again this week answering questions that matter to you. As I state every week, my goal with this show is to shine some light on topics that matter to you guys. Over the past 2.5 months, you guys have been filling my inbox with questions that you want answers to, and I'm here to finally unload my inbox and hopefully give you guys some insight and answers to the questions that you guys have been asking me. And as always, if you have any questions about the show, before or after the show, please stop by Coug Radio on the second floor of the UC North, or you can hit me at ER Dr. Jess on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. That's at ERDRJESS. Today, we have a very special guest in the studio, Dr. ALLLLL. Dr. ALLLLL is an internationally recognized board-certified psychiatrist specializing in the diagnosis and treatment of complex psychological trauma and other related medical health conditions. But today she is here to help us dive into the questions and unpack all of the questions that's been on you all's minds and in my inbox for the past few months. Welcome, Dr. ALLLLL.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. And I call myself a trauma psychiatrist. And some of the topics that you're talking about have a lot to do with trauma.
Yep.
And so I wanted to be able to be here as a support for you because you mentioned that these topics can be tough to talk about. And I really feel like it's important that doctors are educators and give people the information so that they can best protect themselves. So even uncomfortable topics, that's my specialty as a psychiatrist. So you can find...
There is no discomfort with you, right?
Well, there is discomfort, but I make myself push past it because it's important for people to know, especially about sex, you know, and there's... it's because we don't talk enough about it, there are many people who have experiences with sex that are not good or not happy or not, not wanted. So I really took it upon myself to become an educator about how trauma affects people, their bodies and their brains. So you can find out more about me. You can follow my Facebook page. That's where I do a lot of my work with Trauma Thursdays at noon every week. I talk about different subjects related to trauma. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, but just the whole gamut, I guess. But Dr. ALLLLL, DRALLAUNA. Don't forget the U, or you won't find me. DRALLAUNA.
She's giving all the tea.
And drallana.com. That's
there you go. So let's get into it. We got a lot to unpack in this 30-minute episode. So let's get into it.
QTNA.
So over the past decade, the discussion of oral anal play has somehow made its way from being completely taboo to bars on many mainstream artists' hit songs. Nicki Minaj, Jhené Aiko. I don't know if you remember that song. What is the song? How It's Supposed to Be with Omarion.
Oh, yes. Eat the groceries.
Right, eat the groceries.
We have lots of toss the salad.
Right,
we have lots of
Nicki Minaj, Jhené Aiko, Kia, My Neck, My Back. I won't,
we'll stop there.
This is the daytime radio station, so I won't, dive all the way in because I know there's people sitting outside eating their lunch, and the last thing they want to hear is me talking about eating groceries and tossing salads and stuff. But anyway, Nicki Minaj, Jhené Aiko, Kia, Kevin Gates, Notorious B.I.G., and Lil Wayne, and that's just naming a few people, have all bragged about either giving or receiving this once taboo act. Referred to by a number of different nicknames, like we just said, tossing salad, eating groceries, rimming. The scientific name for it is actually analingus, and there are quite a few folks that are interested in it. So let's get into it. So what is it that we need to know about this particular topic?
So I think the first thing that we have to recognize is that just because something is taboo doesn't mean that it wasn't happening. So taboo just means we weren't talking about it. Doesn't mean that it wasn't going on. It's been going on. This is not new. Well, I'll say as a psychiatrist, I would say this is not new behavior. It's just that we're getting to the point where we have more outlets for sexual-oriented education, more so pornography. It's easy to see. And most of the time, people start off with the bread and butter types of sexual activities. And just like we have where you go from first base, third base, all the way to home run, well, now we have more to that. And so I think that we're starting to have a conversation, but it's long overdue. because people have been engaging in these behaviors. We're just now willing to talk about it, and people feel less shamed or embarrassed about it. So now we need to educate ourselves about it, because there are, while it must feel good, people wouldn't do it if it didn't feel good. So that's the first thing that we need to acknowledge, that a lot of people judge folks who are, doing anal play and that kind of stuff. But if it didn't have some element of feel good, you wouldn't have so many people who do it. Men, right. Women, so on and so forth.
And I guess the most important thing for me, especially on a show like Coug Radio that really caters to college community, which is this, 18 to 24 range, is just to make sure that we're doing it safely, right? And letting everybody know like what their risks are when they partake in certain activities, whether it be regular sex, anal sex, oral anal, whatever.
You have to know about it. Where would they get the education though? Because a lot of them, you certainly can't go ask your parents, how do I do this safely?
Like I'm struggling with even doing this show because I know my parents are listening to this. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad.
Well, but this is I think that's part of the reason why we have to work on our anxiety to get past it, because that's the reason why people don't understand the risks. Because if the doctors have trouble talking about it, then imagine they're getting it from their friends or getting it from other people who are like, they tell you about the part that feels good. They don't tell you the risk to your health. They don't tell you the risk to your body. They don't tell you the other aspects of it. So let's talk about it, because I know you have some things.
100%. Let's get into it. So, just as far as the epidemiology of it goes, and by epidemiology, I mean, just the statistics and the prevalence of it. No one really 100% knows. I think people are just kind of guessing, because like you said, it's taboo, right? People are
hard to get on a survey,
but not really talking about it. I mean, we just started talking about it in songs, and then I think Ebony Magazine talked about it, and I think it was it's been on a couple of TV shows where some of these main characters have talked about how great it is and all this. But in 1992, I think the CDC and prevention, they had a study that looked at people between the ages of 18 and 59, and they found that about 20% of women and 26% of men had tried some type of anal play, right? In 2008, that number had basically doubled. So 44% of men and 39% of women had engaged in some form of anal sexual activity. And my guess is that as we continue to, talk about it in songs and bring it up on, in different articles and talk about it on the radio like we're doing right now, and in different TV shows, that number is going to continue to climb.
Right. Can I say something real quick?
Sure, yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that just the same way that we have more nerves in our genitals, in our clitoris for a woman, and in the penis, there's more sensitivity because there's more nerves in those areas that help send that information to your brain. You also have clusters of nerves around the anus and in that area, and just like nipple stimulation, there's a lot of nerves near your nipples. Yep. So this it's not strange that those particular places on our bodies are more sensitive, and so we like to mess with them. So I think what happened was that people started figuring out oh, okay, this is
and what I found is a lot of people kind of get into it by accident, and then they just continue to accidentally do it.
Well, all right, that worked.
But exactly. So I think that the prevalence of this will continue, and who knows what the real percentage is. This is just people who are willing to openly talk about it, right? So I think the most important question is, what are the short-term and long-term risks of this, and if there are any, and then how do you ensure that you're staying safe while you're doing it, right?
Sure.
So
there definitely, we have to recognize that your anus is designed to hold your stool, hold your bowels, and so there's always going to be bacteria in that area of your body. There's even most people, I would say, definitely if you're going to do it, make sure that you clean ahead of time. So you want to hygiene first. So before you engage in any sexual activity, give a good wipe down. Just a favor to
a wipe down. Get some soap and water.
Soap and water. I mean, if you can't get a wipe down, do something. Clean the area as good as possible. And of course, you want to make sure that if you have diarrhea or any other sort of upset feeling or feeling abnormal, this is not something that you want to engage in.
Or constipation.
For the protection of your partner, because that certainly they're going to be exposed if they put their mouth in that area, you know. So the first thing is there's always going to be a risk of E. coli and other contaminants.
Our editor and producer is in the background like cringing right now. Like he's making all these faces.
There is always, well, you know, to put it like this, people say when you're in there and you're in the heat of the moment, you're not thinking about that. You can't see it. So a lot of times when we can't see something, we don't think that it's there. We don't think about
germs. You don't know what's happening.
Even if the lights are on, you're not thinking about it. You're thinking about, ooh, this looks good. You're like, ooh, that looks like. So, you know, we get into the passion of sex, but you still have to be safe.
Right.
And so one thing to consider is that dental dams are something where you protect your mouth, and where so that would be the person who is providing the oral sex would wear a dental dam, and that would protect the transfer of fluids. Now, of course, you know, a lot of people don't even know where to find dental dams or don't like dental dams, but you can find them at most pharmacies, and you don't need prescriptions.
You know what? I kind of, okay, so I have a question, Dr. Lana.
Oh, Lord.
You know, okay, so in preparation for this show, like I was looking up the dental dams, right? And how they work. So the dental dam, like, is supposed to kind of go over the tongue, almost like a protective cover.
Yeah.
But how do you, see, look, I'm now like one of the students. How do you use the dental dam, right? But then you put your tongue back in your mouth. So
right. So this is not foolproof.
Yeah.
It's just lessening the risk.
Right.
So
okay.
the idea is you're not ever, well, let's be real. It's never going to be 100% safe.
Right.
You can catch hepatitis. You can catch, you know, the equivalent of stuff. Like, think about food poisoning, just worse. Yeah. that has potentials for doing this. So I think even before you engage in the act, it's important to have conversations with your partner to be tested for STDs, including and especially HIV, Hep C.
100%.
Right. 100%. HPV.
Right.
Because all of the, like, I would, if you're going to do it, I think it's really important to be in a partnership. Maybe that's not necessarily monogamous, because some people think that they're in monogamous relationships and they're not. But the most important way to keep yourself safe is to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations. If you're going to be grown enough to put your whole face if you're going to be grown enough to put your face there, the conversation ahead of time needs to be, when is the last time you were tested? Yeah. Can I see your test results? Here, I got mine right here. I'll show you mine. Because that way, when you're down there doing your business, you don't have to be worried as much about the possibility of catching hepatitis and destroying your liver, or any other type of things that you can contract from that.
Exactly. Yeah. That is excellent advice, and I'm 100% here for. I just had to ask that question about the dental dam because I was like, well, you know, prepping for the show, I'm like, well, this doesn't seem.
It doesn't stop.
I was like, oh, that's really smart, but then I was like,
yeah,
no, maybe not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, again, this is one of those things that if you're doing it, you have to know that there's some level of risk that you're accepting,
right?
And it's not another person's fault if you make yourself sick because you are. Yeah. You know, there literally have been people, especially if you have other health problems or a compromised immune system, there have been people that get sick enough that they've died from fecal oral contact because, you know, we think about all these food poisoning and stuff. A lot of that is from E. coli being on food products. Yeah. So, you know, we want to definitely make sure that people understand there is a risk that you cannot get around if you're doing it.
And then the internet is just a crazy thing, right? Because I was, you know, looking to see what articles are out there, like actual scientific articles and journals out there about this specifically. And there's not a whole lot.
Not a lot.
But there is a lot of information that people just decided that they're the experts on.
Right.
And they just put stuff out there. And one of the topics, one of the things that they said was like, well, okay, it's not as safe for people who are just randomly going and just eating, you know, people's butts that they meet in the club. But people but people who are in a monogamous relationship are okay. I'm like,
well, you still have the biology that you have to deal with. So less risk.
And they try to say like, okay, if you've been in a monogamous relationship for a long period of time, and I think they consider a long period of time like a year, that you all's gut flora is the same. And I had to ask my friend. I said, but the gut flora is still E. coli,
right?
Though,
your gut flora is similar. which does not still prevent you from getting sick. Like
getting sick, right? You can still get sick from
right,
it.
because so that's down in the bottom.
Exactly.
It's not. It's not the same stuff that's at the top.
And so this particular website was trying to imply that it's totally okay because you and your monogamous spouse have the same gut flora, so you won't get sick, which is totally false. You know, you still have to protect yourself. Sure. You still have to take the rights, you know, all of the necessary steps for both of you all, so that you won't get sick if you're going to partake in this particular activity.
Sure. And again, it's a gamble. But one thing you also have to remember, that not only is there the risk of the person performing the oral analingus to get sick, but also if they go from anal to vaginal.
Yes, which is actually one of the questions that somebody asked. Right. We could talk about the analingus like all day. I know we're already like running half our time just on this particular topic. So let's actually just move on to one of the other questions that someone had, and that was actually going from anal to vaginal. So they said, my partner forgets to return to after anal sex, and sometimes goes to vaginal without like stopping and washing and, you know, kind of taking a pause for is that what that song is?
That's what truffle butter is.
That's what that is?
When you go from anal to vaginal.
Yo, I'm so
the mixing
naive.
of
what is going on?
The mixing of the stuff makes the buttery.
That's what that is?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that. So they made a whole song about that too.
Yeah, you're welcome. You probably didn't want to know that.
They made a whole song about that too. Wow. Okay, my mind is kind of blown. I can't even focus.
Okay, so
so basically, she's saying her partner sometimes accidentally goes from anal to vaginal, and she asked about the risk, or when that happens, should she go to see a doctor? Should she go to the ER? Does she need to get antibiotics right away? What say you, Dr. Alana?
Okay, so no, and no for all three of those questions. You don't have to run to your doctor or the ER or take antibiotics immediately. However, what I would recommend, that if your partner goes from anal to vaginal, before your partner inserts their penis back in you, you say, excuse me, no. Like, change condoms. Hopefully you're wearing condoms. Change condoms. If they're going to do that, I recommend that you guys talk ahead of time and talk about, we can do that, but that's the final tally. You can't go from that to something without us stopping and washing up. So if you know that that's the case, like, first of all, if I've explained to you that doing that behavior could cause infections in my bladder or infections in my vagina area or whatever, and you still forget or quote unquote forget, then you're not really respecting or protecting me, and I probably don't need to be having sex with you anyway.
100% correct. Because it's not, I don't think it's really a forget. I think it's more of I was caught in the passion of the moment, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do.
No, that needs to be your finale if that's what we're doing.
Exactly. And I think, you brought up, stopping, if you have on a condom, stopping and then taking it off, changing condoms or whatever. Right. But for folks that are not using condoms and are just kind of doing it freely, and these could be the married folks or whatever too. I think one thing that's important to note, a lot of people think you can just go and kind of use some soap and water and just get back into the throes of things. But I found that one thing you really need to think about doing is going and actually urinating first to get whatever that is in your urethra out.
Right.
And then
which is that little hole. At the tip of the penis.
Thank you.
That collects.
Thank you, Dr. Lana. I forget to sometimes describe the anatomy. Yeah. So, yes, that is your pee hole, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you need to pee first, get all that out, and then clean underneath your fingernails. If there was any hand use. If you're not circumcised, you need to clean underneath. Right. So there's a whole lot of cleaning that needs to happen before you go back from anal to vaginal sex while you're in the throes of things. So just please plan it. Put it on the calendar. So anyway, yes, please make sure you're taking care of yourself and making sure that your partner's taking care of you. And it's not it is not their job to set the boundaries and take care of you if you're not willing to speak out about those things. So you can also say, hey, no, we need to stop if that's what you want to do. Yes. Okay. And if you have any more questions about that topic, because we got to keep moving. You guys had a lot of questions. If you have any more questions about that topic, you can feel free to hit up Dr. Alana or me. Put me first. Hit up Dr. Alana. Dr. Alana at DR. Or you can hit me up too. But yeah, we got to keep moving. So the other question that I've gotten a lot is from multiple people is it okay to have anal sex every day? for those that are doing that?
I mean, what the concept of it being okay. I don't give like if it's okay or not. Does it have consequences? So anytime you have an anal sex, it's going to be loosening the sphincter. You have two sphincters at the bottom. If you've had anal sex, you know about it because you got to get past both of them to get in there. And so the more you have anal sex, the more that stretches out those two internal bands. And so the harder it will be to hold your stool. The harder that it would be, you know, sometimes it's hard to hold your stool anyway, but if you have that area that's loosened up, you may have accidents or other things like that. That does increase your risk of hemorrhoids, and it can increase your risk of prolapse, which is when the inside sort of is able to slide outside. And so they're definitely and tears because it's the anus is not, it doesn't have natural lubrication the way that the vagina does. So use lots of lube. That's very important to use lots of lube if you're going to have anal sex, because you want that glide, because the inside is not as tough as the vagina, is not as stretchy. So there's tears on the inside that happen when you're having penetration in there, and that also can increase your risk for STDs, and because the tears allow cells across the membrane, basically.
Cells and bacteria.
Yeah, bacteria, and viruses to enter into your body.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we really answered the question.
There are surgeons that repair those things.
Okay.
So
there's a surgeon for everything.
There's a surgeon for everything.
Everything.
You know, definitely. This happens often, not for male or female, because we know that happens in both sexes. The important part is to really make sure that you inform yourself. Is it okay to have anal sex every day? It's if that's what you're doing, you just need to understand that it does have potential long-term consequences.
I'll
put it like that.
Yeah. So I guess we're leaving that to you all. We're giving you the information and the risk.
That's it.
And we will leave it to your discretion.
Your
So hopefully that answers it. No more need to inbox me on that question. Okay.
Do what you do.
Do what you do.
Just do it safely.
Right. Okay. Next question. So when people have blisters on their mouths, does that mean that they have an STD from oral sex?
So people having blisters on their mouths means that they have the herpes virus.
Yes.
There are two different herpes viruses.
Yes.
The one and the two. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the one is the one that usually causes the cold sores on your face.
Yes.
And that one is technically, although it's not considered a STD, it still is transmitted from skin to skin contact, and it's very common for people to have it. I think the last statistics were like 70% of the population is positive for HSV1.
Right.
So a person having a cold sores do come from the herpes virus activating and causing the sore. However, that's technically not considered an STD. Although if you have intercourse with that person, or if they go have oral sex with you or whatever else, when a person has an active sore, they can transmit the herpes virus, and it can cause lesions in the vaginal area.
I remember in residency, we had to every resident had to give a topic on whatever emergency medicine case or whatever, and I just so happened to get the STD topic, so I know all about the herpes and everything that
herpes.
You're crazy. So I know all about the herpes. But yes, HSV1 causes the cold sore. HSV2 is typically the herpes that you get in the genitalia area.
Although it can manifest on the face.
It sure can.
Rarely.
You stole the words right out of my mind. So you can get the HSV2, which is the genital herpes, on your face. So you really don't know what you're rocking with. It's just a majority of the time it's HSV1, which is the cold sore herpes, not HSV2, but it can be.
And HSV2 is like 50% of the population, if I'm not mistaken, 40 or 50% of the population.
It's, I think they say 1 in every 4 person.
Yeah, and that's probably an underestimate.
Yeah,
because most statistics are underestimate.
Herpes,
so I think the important part to understand about herpes is just, for one, I think it's important to destigmatize it because it's so common, and whenever people are interacting skin to skin, it doesn't even have to be full intercourse. If your juices are mixing and rubbing and things like that, you still, I mean, even like wrestling sports, MMA, things where people are rubbing against each other a lot, they can spread herpes even through that type of skin to skin contact. So I think it's more important for us to be educated about it and decrease the stigma around it. Not to say that you want it, but the best way to keep yourself safe is to be just very educated about what it is and what it's not.
Yeah. 100%. So I had some more to add to that, but we are running a long time, so I'm going to move on to the next topic, and you guys can hit us up on our social media and we'll expound upon these different topics as basically, since we're not getting a chance to really share the whole gambit of our mental arsenal here with you guys.
We have more.
We have more. You can just hit us up on social media and we'll get to those. One of the other questions I wanted to make sure that we got to today on the air, though, is a young lady sent a question. She said she wanted to start birth control, but she was afraid she was going to gain weight because she heard that was what a lot of young women suffer from. Is this myth, truth, false, fact? What say you?
I say true with some details.
Yeah.
So most birth control forms do have some level of side effects, weight gain side effects connected to them, but it's on a dial. And it very much depends on the person. It depends on where they're starting in the first place in terms of health and in terms of their body and their eating habits. It also depends on the type of birth control. So, for example, an IUD, which is the little T-shaped looking thing that they place inside of the uterus, there's very little weight gain on that, although some forms of them have a very small amount of hormone that can come out locally in the uterus. That can cause some increase, but not as much as, for example, if you're taking oral pills.
Right.
Or one that's famous for weight gain is Depo-Provera, the shot.
Yeah.
And so it causes more.
One thing that I found is that a lot of the weight gain that people are believing, or perceived weight gain is like fluid rather than actual,
actual
fat cells
fat,
and things like that. So I would just say, I guess you got to kind of risk versus benefit.
Sure.
Here, right. And then there's so many different options with birth control these days.
Patches,
right.
rings.
If one doesn't work, try something else.
Exactly.
There's so many different, different pills.
Right.
Also, that
you know what else
try.
causes weight gain? Pregnancy.
Yeah.
Having kids and not having time to exercise.
You're right.
Grabbing fast food because you don't have time to do anything else. So it's actually better to get that 10, 15 pounds.
Versus benefit.
There you go.
There we go.
It's always looking at the pros and cons of anything. And that's the reason why it's important to actually go see a physician, someone who is educated about the various different things and can help you look at your individual situation that and help you make a decision about what's best for your health. So the pros and cons are when you look at it versus gain a little weight from birth control versus gain a little weight from this baby and all the rest of it, and gain some weight in life that's gonna last 18 or more years.
Some mental weight.
I think
mental weight.
Within reason, I think we have to expect that it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
And if you exercise, if you eat better, and you don't do your typical college cruddy diet, you can control some of that weight gain. Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Dr. ALLLLL, you are so hilarious. Thank you so much for being on the show and helping me power through this episode.
We got it.
Thank you so much. I hope you would come on the show again in the future. Sure. There's so much more that I think you can add to the show. I would love to have you. And for you guys, Cougs, thank you so much for tuning into the Medical Minute. Tune in again next week. We'll be talking about and spilling all the tea on the hottest body augmenting procedures, the Brazilian butt lifts, and the breast augmentations, and snatching that waist, and all of the good, the bad, and the in between. So tune in next week again. As always, follow me at Dr. Jess. That's at ERDRJESS on all social media networks, and follow Dr. ALLLLL too. Dr. ALLLLL, what's your tag?
DRALAUNA, Dr. ALLLLL, trauma psychiatrist on Facebook, IG, Twitter, YouTube.
Hey, there we go. So follow us both. She has a lot of knowledge. She has a lot of stuff to share, and hopefully she'll be back with us again. Tune in next week. Can't wait to share with you guys again. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great week.